Welcome to the Writing with Purpose podcast, where I, Anna Woolliscroft, chat with fellow writers and outdoor enthusiasts about how we can embrace creativity and curiosity to live a life full of adventure that doesn't feel like hard work. I delve into exploratory conversations about my two loves in life, writing and nature connection, as part of my mission to share the well-being benefits they both bring. It's wonderful to have you here today. On today's Writing with Purpose podcast, I'm chatting with author and financial advisor Karl Lehmann about money, mind and meaning, and how just being is the way forward. Brilliant. Okay, so Karl, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to talk to you about what it is that you do, the fact that you've written a book and then you've written a second book, and how you sort of bring in nature and the great outdoors as a love of what you do, but into your work and sort of all of your ethics and things. So welcome along.
Thank you.
First of all, you've been in the financial industry for almost 40 years, so congratulations. And we've known each other probably for, I don't know, over a decade.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
And you are not the typical financial advisor that, you know, a lot of people I think of, people that live in that industry, work in that industry. So do you want to tell us a little bit about sort of your journey to date in a kind of nutshell? And
actually, the financial services profession, I don't use the word industry, by the way, because we don't actually manufacture anything, so I'll rename it profession.
Okay.
But that's just me being picky on that one. So
it's an example of use of language as well, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
You interpret it and others interpret it, yeah.
Do you know what? Most people still refer to it as an industry, but you know, when you've got chartered and certified tucked under your belt, I call it a profession. So my career was going to be in the Royal Air Force, would you believe, Anna? So I don't really know this, but I was an air cadet in my teenage years. Wow. And I was planning on sort of going into the RAF. And you know what it's like. Your parents go to parents' evening at school. My father came home and said, "Karl, I've spoken to your commerce teacher and I've spoken to your accounts teacher, and you're top of the class. You're not going in the RAF, sunshine." Well, I said, "Well, I am, Dad." And he said, "Well, no, you're not." But he dragged me kicking and screaming out of school at the age of 16 on the basis that I'd do an apprenticeship with him for a couple of years. And if I didn't like it, you know, I could then sort of reapply and sort of go in the RAF. But here we are, 38 years down the line.
Yeah, it's still there.
I've stood the distance. So yeah, I worked with Dad from the age of 16. Sadly, he passed away very suddenly just after my 20th birthday, which taught me a lot about business and you know, all the problems that can arise if you don't have a will or, you know, legal documents that aren't validated properly. And I kind of picked up the baton, run with it. And then 20 years ago, I formed my own practice, Lehmann Financial Management. We're a small team. And I'm a chartered wealth manager and published author on the subject now. So I give you a little précis of the history.
It does. I mean, yeah, you were sort of thrust into that from a very early age, 16, and then of course what happened with your dad, and then you sort of had to learn the ropes in other areas very, very quickly. But you know, that kind of natural tendency to understand the figures and be drawn into that was beneficial. But also as well, I think, you know, you mentioned that you know, the published author there in the first book that you created, you know, was there an element of that was kind of bubbling away from you from an early age because of what happened to you, do you think? Because you know, the sort of dream it, plan it, live it, you've got to have that aspiration, haven't you, in sort of your vision and your dreams, and then, you know, you do need some tangible actions and things to put into place in order to get there.
I think it grew, to be honest with you. Like I said, Dad passed away when I was 20. So there's probably a period of about 9, 10, 11 months where I was in the wilderness, not really knowing where I was going to be next. I did end up then working with what was his ex senior partner. And he was a great mentor, really great guy, actually. And then I found somebody else and worked with them, and they were very psychologically aware. And I can remember, I don't know, I must have been 21, 22, going on a Brian Tracy psychology of achievement course.
Yeah.
And that completely opened my mind to the possibilities that actually, this space here in our minds, in our heads, is the thing that really drives us forward. So I think I became very psychologically aware at that age. And then I think I probably had about 8 years working as most financial advisors, or as I tend to call them, financial advertisers do, which is simply flogging products. And, that I got to the age of maybe 30, 31, something along those lines. And that's where the idea of the Dream It, Plan It, Live It philosophy was born. Here we go. There's the said
There
book.
we go. Right.
And I'll probably be, I don't know, 34, 35. My wife, Sarah, is a doctor in clinical psychology. And I was talking to her about actually quitting the financial services business. And she goes, why? And I said, do you know what? I said, I'm fed up of doing the same old thing that other financial advisors do. You've got these big companies that manufacture products. They then go to the independent financial advice community, the IFA community, and say, hey, here's the latest, new, shiniest product. Go and sell that to your client. And that's what I did. And that's what most financial advisors, or as I say, financial advertisers do. And I was really despondent because it was just not really getting to the issue, the nub of the issue with people. So Sarah said, look, I'll do some coaching with you. I'll kind of, work with your mind and see what's really, really important to you. So out of that came my core values, which was I really wanted to make an impact on people's lives broader than just a few quid in your pension scheme or a few quid in your ISA. And actually, I'd done a coaching qualification, and my wife Sarah said to me, "Look, I think you're really good at what you do. Can you not change the model of what financial planning looks like, what proper financial life planning looks like?" And I like a challenge. So out of that really was born the Dream It, Plan It, Live It book, and the way in which we work. So that's where that was all born from.
It sounds as though you wanted something that was kind of, you could get your teeth into, something that was a little bit more creativity. Sorry, a bit more creative, and that's something that I think helps to fuel us a lot of times. If we feel bored or fed up of something that we're doing, whether it be a career or whether it just be something that we do in our personal life, I actually think that it's because we're lacking creativity, and there's something that's not sort of pulling the potential from within us out there. So it sounds as though the work that you did with Sarah, with your wife, kind of opened up the fact that here's a way for you to sort of be a bit more creative. You've got this idea in your head that things weren't actually being talked about or dealt with in a full holistic way, and then the book was a solution for people that say, hey, there's actually a lot of other things to think about, and here's a much better way to approach and implement your financial stability and achieve what you want.
Absolutely, because money's just an energy. It allows you to do good stuff or do bad stuff, depending on how you're wired. But it's then attaching. What does that money then give you? What's the attachments of that? What does it sort of provide for you? That's a little bit more outside the box, as you say, a bit more creative.
And again, I think a lot of people, myself included, we approach financial things and we think, oh, I'm not really a numbers person, I don't quite get that. But your formula, if you like, and your book in particular, it makes it really simple for people just to pick up, grab a cup of tea, start reading, and actually, I can do this. This actually is a relatively simple process, albeit you've got to look at a few different, aspects of life. But it makes it achievable for people.
I think that's really important, because so many people look at the numbers and think, wow, I could never be financially free. I could never do this. I could never do that. I could never do the other. And actually, you can. You just need to do a few things consistently well. And that's where the book comes in terms of helping people get their head around those sorts of things.
Yeah, thinking about what they need to do at a certain age, maybe, or different lifestyle choices as well, that
Sure.
you can sacrifice a little bit now to actually improve everything a little bit later on in life.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know about you and sort of your clients as well. I think you reach a certain age in life and you think actually there must be a bit more
Mm-hmm.
this, and I think we become, probably what you said earlier about Brian Tracy. I mean, he's one of the sort of forerunners, isn't he, with this
Mm.
psychological behavior and understanding yourself from a mindset point of view.
Yeah.
And I think you reach a certain age and you do start questioning, well, what is my purpose? What is life all about?
Mm-hmm.
You have these big questions that you actually don't consider in your 20s, albeit you perhaps did do because of
Mm.
your
Yes.
experience and with your dad.
Yes.
A lot of people just think, it's not going to happen to me. I've got plenty of time to think about this, and
Yeah.
really it's approaching it from the wrong angle completely, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, it's fascinating. So yeah, so you're a published author. Have you always had that kind of interest in writing? Sort of, have you ever journaled, or do you read a lot? What's kind of your earliest memories of sort of writing and reading and kind of sharing information, any
Mm.
sort of
I think where I got really engaged with the power of words was this will harken back to secondary school days, really. I had an amazing English teacher. So I don't know if you've ever seen the film Dead Poets Society with Robin Williams.
a long time
Yeah,
ago.
a long, long time ago.
Matt Damon
So
as well, isn't it?
he was an out of the ordinary type teacher, and so indeed was Tony Murray, who was deputy headmaster of the school I went to, but an English teacher. And I can remember doing back in those days O levels, so that dates me. But other classes would have folder upon folder upon folder of notes, and just before the exams, people would say, "Well, how many folders have you got?" And we had one. One folder, and there was just literally half A4 sort of pages in there, because he worked on the philosophy that you had to think, and it was your thinking that then governed how you wrote, how you reasoned an argument, how creative you were. But the one thing that ignited me with Of Mice and Men was a book that we did as part of English literature. But he used to encourage all the students in his class to sort of use voices, and I can remember him getting up, and he was a big burly rugby playing kind of a guy, and he used to go, "Lenny, you crazy bastard." And I used to think, my goodness me, this school teacher is swearing in the classroom. What the hell is going on here? But I guess he kind of aroused that kind of curiosity in the power of words. I have journaled, yes. I do it now more than ever, actually. Most days I will journal. Get stuff out your head is really valuable. But I think because essentially as a financial life planner, we're in the communication business, really. First and foremost, we need to understand with crystal clear clarity exactly who we're dealing with, what's important to them, what keeps them awake at night. So it's that communication type thing. So I think that's where the wordplay comes from, really. But I don't know, that original interest came from Tony Murray, who's no longer with us. But it's funny how these people plant a legacy in your life, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is. And for positive or negative outcomes with some people. But yeah, I like what you were saying there about him encouraging to sort of, think, and a lot of it comes from the mind. And I think, part of that is just free flow writing, and you have an idea or you've got something that you need to discuss. And then you just sort of igniting your inner creativity, almost your own storyteller, really, to start writing. And then it just flows. And I think for me, being a writer sort of for businesses, but also trying to do more now from a creativity standpoint, is that it just helps to sort of get an idea and just flow with it without your logical rational mind stepping in and saying you can't write that, or that's not right. And I know there's certain boundaries that you need to keep within from a professional point of view, but the way you were describing that then as being in the communication business,
sure,
just it's sort of sales and marketing and
Yeah.
other kind of aspect where we need to understand who it is that we're talking to and
Yeah.
their wants and needs and what their life looks like. And then you've got a picture of how they operate and where they want to be almost. And then you just sort of fill in a few of the gaps
Yeah.
for, here's how you can get there.
Yeah. I think also adding on to that now, I mean, something that's really sort of topical is AI and, the sort of impact it might have on, each of our businesses. But I think at the end of the day, in this world now, as arguably we're more connected than ever before, I don't know about you, Anna, but I feel like we're more disconnected than ever before because actually in this virtual world, I think people crave that kind of actual connection. And something that AI is not going to do, I don't think yet, is kind of mirror my tone or mirror your tone, and people either get you or they don't. In which case, either way, that's fine.
Yeah,
but it's that kind of human contact, and post COVID, I think now in this world that we're living in, people probably want that now more than ever. What's your sense on that?
Yeah, I completely agree. And certainly, when we got used to having to have these meetings and seeing people virtually, it has created a bit of a void that the face-to-face interaction actually provides. And certainly now I'm getting out and about and I'm seeing more people face-to-face again. I think there's always going to be a place for online because it offers convenience and accessibility for people. And some people prefer that, but other people don't, they haven't got any other way to access things. But I think if you can, everything is so much more enriching when you are with somebody face to face. And you can see more body language, you can hear the tone better, you can see sort of the emotional element coming in. And I don't think AI will. I'm hesitant, and I think you were a bit hesitant as well, because at some point probably there will be a lot more of that tone and personal emotion because AI learns, doesn't it? So, but at the moment, I mean, I've tested a few things, and it's quite rigid, I would say, in what you get back. And there's a lot of fluff involved in what you get back. There's not sort of the same clarity that you would have from knowing your profession inside and out and your clients inside and out. And I think it's got a place for helping processes and things to become maybe quicker or more effective, but not for I was having this conversation with someone the other day just generally about writing and how writing makes you feel in the same way that drawing or painting or dancing makes you feel as a person. And AI is not ever going to replace that on the individual level. So it's a big topic at the moment, isn't it?
It's huge. There's a mastermind group that I attend, and actually there's the guy there who runs an IFA practice, and he was saying that actually he believes his business will be dead in 10 years' time, and which was quite surprising, really, because I grinned at my eldest son Harry, who's in the practice with me, and I thought actually it probably will be for him because he has a particular formula, and it's very one size that fits all, and sheep dips everybody through the process. Whereas we spend a lot of time up front doing the human element, because at the end of the day, unless we know what the money's for, and then you can't really dispense proper financial planning unless you really, really dig deep into what keeps people awake at night, what their hopes are, what their dreams are. So I think for us, until such time as you can replicate a human being, we're still in business.
And it perhaps will just offer people alternative choices. If they want some sort of financial advice, then here's kind of the automated route, a little bit like comparison websites, maybe. And they'll put in a few bits of information and they'll churn something out at the other side, or maybe work something else out. But it's never going to have that almost backwards and forwards and life experience that certainly you've got from working with people for 38 odd years. I mean, that can't be learned unless you do that for that amount of time, surely.
Time will tell.
Time will tell, exactly. So let's talk a little bit about your latest book, Karl. And you wrote one.
Hey, do you want a visual prompt for that? There we go. We got
visual
that
prompts. There we go. Which is in hardback this time. Good to see. So what led you to write second book, because you've got some case studies, some things in there, haven't you? And was it something that you came across that you thought, actually there's more information that I need to share here, there's something that is missing? What led you to write the second one?
So two or three things really. I think Dream It, Plan It, Live It is a cracking little book for people who don't really have an idea of how to get their financial ducks lined up in a row. How much money they need in their freedom fund, which is a pot of money that allows you to make work optional at some point. And it's a great book to walk you through that step-by-step process of helping you to dream, plan, and ultimately live the exact life that you want without worrying about money. I think where the second book came from was we have a number of business owner clients who are retired, and they say, well, this is great, Karl, you've got this book written telling us how to accumulate our freedom fund, but actually we have accumulated our freedom fund. So now what? So I interviewed a lot of these people, and it was really understanding from their perspective. They've got all the money that they need to be able to live the lifestyle that they want. But actually, what was their meaning? What were their drivers? Because you can imagine if you've been at the helm of your own business for 20, 30, 40 years, and then you're kind of cruising to retirement, you think it's like sitting on the beach, sipping pina coladas, having a great time. For a lot of people, it then brings into all sorts of things about their identity and who they really are. And as my role evolves actually within Dream It, Plan It, Live It, my oldest son Harry is taking on more and more of the client work, and I'm more and more business development focused. And I can tell you, from personal experience, it throws up some questions in your mind. You think, hang on a minute, I used to be doing this, but now I don't do that anymore. So it's more like a chairperson role that I'm doing. So I think there was a trigger there from certainly our retired clients who are saying, this is great that you've got this book, but what about me? What about me in retirement? Then COVID hit. And I think when COVID, obviously my wife works in the NHS, and, we're surrounded by people within the NHS. It kind of made me really do a lot of research into where that kind of meaning, where happiness really comes from. Because a lot of people think, do you know what, if I've got £2 million or £1 million or £5 million, whatever the figure might be in my freedom fund, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Or will you?
Yeah.
Will you really?
Yeah.
And so I did all sorts of research into where happiness comes from. I took all sorts of research. I worked on a coaching program with some of the best international coaches in the world during sort of 2020, and that opened my mind into kind of the power of coaching and morning routines, afternoon routines, and just really leveraging what you do with your life. We've all got a certain amount of hours, minutes, and days on this planet Earth. What impact can we make? So the book was deliberately entitled Money, Mind, Meaning, which actually the title was created by my son Jacob, because he's really creative, and go, right, this is what I'm thinking. We had the word money in there, and I had the word mind. He said, well, money, mind, meaning. So ultimately, at the end of the day, like I said earlier, money is just an energy. It allows you to do stuff. But this is about how, with small changes, you can make big differences, not only in your financial plan, but also in your life plan. Because it's one of those things, I think, a lot of people live quiet lives of quiet lives of desperation. They have all of these things going on in their head, but unless you calm the mind and actually stop and reflect and think what's really important to me, and that's where spending time in the great outdoors, Anna, is really important, because when you connect with nature in that regard, it helps you to kind of just give your brain the space it needs to work out. Otherwise, we all get sucked into this vortex, don't we, of just doing it. This is what successful people do. But actually, unless you go, stop, what am I here for? What are the key things I need to be doing with my life? What's going to give me the greatest happiness? And that's what that book is all about. And it's got some of the greatest and latest science in that book. And for me, it's, I'm dead proud of that. I think it's a great piece of work, and was flabbergasted again that November last year got #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. So, yeah, I'm really proud of that. on Amazon in the UK and the United States, which is just brilliant, really. So yeah, chuffed to bits.
Yeah, and congratulations. Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
think, touching on that topic of happiness, it's a growing industry, isn't it? Happiness. I was talking to someone a while ago and she was saying that, that's kind of like the category now for books, that
Yes.
self-development, personal development. Now it's all about happiness. And I think just understanding yourself a little bit more and where some of these motivations come from. And, to say that money is an energy might be a little bit, hard for some people to grasp. But,
Mm.
we as human beings are energy, aren't we?
Yeah,
Everything
yeah,
is made
yeah.
up of energy. And I think if we've got negative energy towards money, then things aren't going to happen in the way that we hope they are. And I
Sure.
think personally, I was a bit concerned about money at the end of last year, start of this year, because I was kind of transitioning my business, shall we say, and I had a big issue with money at the time. But as soon as I got over that, everything just organically seemed to start coming back to me, and making money, and the opportunities, shall we say, just, I don't know, energetically must have just been aligned and worked out for the better for me. But yeah, I think it's important for people to sort of be able to read something like that, and sort of also read that people have gone through this before, and the fact that you've got it packed with research, and that people can say, okay, well, other people have been through this before me and it's not new, and it helps them just to get on board with it a little bit more, shall we say. Are there any plans for a third book?
There should be a trilogy, shouldn't there? There absolutely should be a trilogy. I think, truth be told, I'll leave the third book for Harry to write. So he wrote the foreword in the second book, and I think it's quite right that we have a more modern approach to kind of what we do. So Harry's late 20s, been around in the business now for 10 years.
Wow.
And has obviously grown up with all of this stuff being a dinner table conversation.
Yeah.
So he has a take on what we do as a family practice. But I think the third book in that subject should be his. I've actually got a manuscript of a book that my father authored, and it's only part complete because when he died, I don't know, some parts went sort of disappearing, and it's actually a novel. So when I cruise into retirement, Anna, the third book that I'll probably write will be actually taking his manuscript, reworking it, and some of it's model on people who I actually remember sort of kind of growing up with. So there's a bit of detective work that I need to do there as well. So it'll be something completely different, I suspect.
Yeah, creative non-fiction, as they call it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds fascinating. I shall look forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be an
Just before we wrap up, Karl, then you mentioned about the great outdoors, and that's something that I totally agree with you that it's very expansive, and I think it helps with clarity, but also helps to develop your ideas, and it helps to give you a little bit more kind of grounding and purpose in life. And you love the great outdoors as well, don't you? You walk quite a lot, you cycle, you now live near the ocean, so you can see the English Channel, is it? Every time
it's literally out my window here, yeah.
Yeah. So just tell me a little bit about how you kind of what the great outdoors means to you, and how you kind of use that in your life.
As you said that, what does the great outdoors mean to you? I actually felt my spirit rise in my body. It's an interesting thing. I was just imagining myself walking down a particular pathway on the Mamhead Trail, which is kind of between here and Exeter, and it's just glorious. So for me, it's a place where I can just get peace and I can get some solitude, and it just feels good to be outdoors. And I don't know, I mean, we've got a balmy cocker spaniel who's 2 years old, so sometimes I'll take him off for a walk and you think, oh gosh, I've got all this ruminating around in my head and I don't really know where the way is forward in terms of this task that I'm trying to work through. And I talk to people about the path of flow and the path of force, but for me, when I'm out in nature, whether it be on my mountain bike or walking the dog, path of flow just generally seems to just, I don't know, just channels things much more easily in my head. I guess is a combination is A, you're getting a bit of exercise, so you think more creatively when you've had exercise, you're calmer, you got all those good endorphins buzzing around in your bloodstream. Be outdoors, you then triggers all sorts of other things in your brain, doesn't it? So you just have greater clarity of thinking. So I think for me, it's a place that I go for respite. It's a place that in the morning, it's part of my morning rise and shine routine. We'll take the dog for a walk on the beach, and there's no finer way to start that, whatever the weather. And it's a place that sometimes if I just want to think, I will literally take myself off with a pad and pen and just, sit under a tree, hope an apple doesn't fall on my head or something. But just, I think if you get out of your normal environment, whatever that is, and, sit by water or sit with greenery around you, you just get greater clarity of thinking, whether that be thinking about work, thinking about your relationships, thinking about whatever. Yeah. And sometimes it's just nice just to be. Did you understand what I mean by that? Just not actually have an agenda, just sit there and be and see what rises to the surface. It all sounds a bit woo-woo, which down in Devon is quite normal, really.
Normal. Yeah. I mean, they've got so much beauty down there, haven't they, as far as
glorious
goes on the coast. But just to be able to sort of sit there or stand there, and I think and just sort of be at one with nature, and you kind of don't need anything else at that time. It's just being completely aware of being present, isn't it, and aware of your surroundings. And I think that just somehow helps with the clarity and the creativity or whatever it is that you're looking for. Mention walking out there with a notepad and pen and just having that intention of, okay, I'm going to get outside, I'm going to give myself a little bit of space, and I'm just going to see what flows. And I think you're right with that sort of path of flow that you referred to, that if you're moving a little bit, then it starts to get things flowing a little bit more. But equally, if you're just sitting there and you're outside, it is that change of scenery, and it's becoming, I think I find that if I can become sort of more aware of the kind of elements around me from a sensory, again, I'm probably sounding a bit woo-woo now, but you smell certain things, you hear things like the bird song or the rustling of the trees or the flow of the water crashing of the waves, whatever that is, I think it just helps to kind of boost things.
Yeah.
You get a positive outcome of that, whether you're looking to write something down, work through a problem, it just comes.
I think it's one of those things that we have more and more devices, don't we, in our lives now, whether it be this screen I'm looking at now, or your phone or your iPad or whatever it may be. You got lots of things calling for your attention, and sometimes I think you just need less is more. Actually get outside and turn those things off. I mean, I had an incident a couple of months ago where I couldn't fathom the way forward in terms of a particular task. And I had all the coaching questions, I got the qualifications, and I was sitting there and I was writing it all down. I couldn't really find the answer. And one coach, who you and I both know, actually, Dave, he said to me, you do know the answers. You just need to give your brain the time and the space to think. And he said, go and sit on the seawall where you live and dangle your legs over the seawall with a pad and pen and just see what happens. Just do it every day for 10 minutes. And I don't know, I must have got to day 3 and then started writing and I couldn't stop. It's just almost like when you give yourself that space and time, you go, bang, there it is. There's the answer.
Yeah. And it's something that we don't have much of in the modern life, do we? That's that space and that time. And I think because of everything that's trying to get our attention, we don't give it the time that it often needs, therefore it never comes.
Yeah.
So, just creating that space in a way that works for people. And that might be, I don't know, doing yoga or sitting on a bike. It doesn't necessarily have to be something kind of relaxing and tranquil, does it? It could be something that's a bit more energy boosting. I mean, I do a lot of trail running. For me, that helps again with the energetic sort of flow and the ideas and that, but not in the same way, because normally I'm with people. But yeah, I've got a vision of you there now, Karl, dangling your legs in the sea.
With my earbuds and listening to some music or whatever, because music is another great creative outlet, actually. If you play an instrument or listen to music, that's another great one. But combine that with the outdoors and you get a double whammy.
Do most definitely, most definitely. I quite often bring the music inside as well. I love something water flowing or the rain pouring. That's very relaxing for me. Even wind turbines, strangely enough, the turning of wind turbines. I've got a podcast that I listen to, and that's one of their episodes. And
really,
it sounds a bit random, but it is actually quite relaxing.
Yeah, I guess there's a pattern to it, isn't there? There's a reassuring pattern to it. Yeah.
That's probably what it is. And I was reading something the other day about the vagus nerve, is it?
Yeah.
That runs through your body, and apparently stimulating that vagus nerve helps a lot of things from a health point of view. And humming is something that helps with it. So turning is a little bit like maybe humming, and you can sort of pick up on that, I guess.
Absolutely.
Lots of ideas there. So if anyone sort of wants to get hold of you, Karl, wants to read the book, give you a call as far as getting some advice is concerned, how can people reach you?
I guess the easiest way is just to hit the website. So it's the dreamitplanetliveitbook.com, dreamitplanetliveitbook.com, all sorts of free information on there, plus our contact details, or connect with us on social media.
Brilliant. Well, we'll include links to all of those in the show notes as well, so that people can find you. And is there anything else that you would like to say to anyone listening or watching before we wrap up?
I guess one of the little mantras that I have is really, the mind is a great thing. And I think we all just need to sort of trust ourselves in that regard a little bit. So I always say to people, it's our attitude, not our aptitude, that determines our altitude.
Great. I like that. Can I use that at some point?
You can use that one. Think it through. Makes sense. It's our attitude, not our aptitude, that determines our altitude.
It does. It makes a lot of sense. And that's just reminded me of my adventure climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in January. A lot of that was about, my attitude towards it, not necessarily, my fitness skill and my ability in sort of walking or hiking. The body will keep going a lot longer before the mind does. Yeah. But I had to practice a lot of stuff there.
I should have thought about that yesterday on Dartmoor. My youngest son was dragging us up a tour in Dartmoor, having done the 10 Tours walk earlier this year, and there he was, and I was like, I've had enough. Let's go home now. Let's go and grab a beer somewhere.
Well, that's your celebration at the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, got to earn it first.
It's been wonderful to talk to you, Karl. Thank you very, very much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Anna. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's Writing with Purpose podcast. Having conversations with fellow writers or adventure enthusiasts brings two of my biggest loves in life together: writing and nature connection. I've been a copywriter and content creator for 23 years, but my passion is writing for well-being, and I'm on a mission to share the benefits that putting pen to paper has for personal wellness with as many people as possible. If you want to learn more about writing for your well-being and journaling techniques, please connect with me in my Facebook group, Journaling with Anna.